Hathras shook the conscience of many Indians. But for the Dalit community across the country, such atrocities are nothing new. In another horrific incident, 3 Dalit girls were targeted in Uttar Pradesh's Gonda. Acid was thrown on the 3 sisters while they were sleeping in their house on Monday night.
इस 28 साल के दलित आदमी को लोगों ने बहुत बुरी तरह से पीटा क्योंकि उसने एक अपर कास्ट के आदमी के 2 व्हीलर को हाथ लगा दिया था। कर्नाटका के विजयपुरा डिस्ट्रिक्ट में हुआ था यह इंसिडेंट इसी जुलाई में। मध्य प्रदेश के गुना डिस्ट्रिक्ट में ये दलित कपल पेस्टिसाइड पीने पर मजबूर हो गए क्योंकि पुलिस उन्हें जबरदस्ती निकाल रही थी उनकी जमीन से। These 3 women in Bihar's Muzaffarpur district were called witches. They were made to drink urine. Their heads were shaved off and were paraded half naked. And then we say that caste discrimination doesn't exist in India anymore. It's because most of us don't belong to marginalized communities. We're very comfortable in our upper caste world. You know, every 15 minutes a crime is committed against a Dalit. Every day 6 Dalit women are raped. Every year close to 56,000 children of lower castes living in urban slums die of malnutrition. And close to 1,000 Dalits are killed due to caste-based violence every year.
See, there are 2 things about the scheduled caste. We want untouchability to be abolished, you see. But we also want, you see, that we must be given equal opportunities, you see, so that we may rise to the level of the other classes. Mere washing off of untouchability is of no consequence. We have been carrying on with untouchability for the last 2,000 years. Nobody has bothered about it, you see. Nobody has bothered about it. Yes, there are some disabilities which are very harmful. For instance, people can't take water, and people can't have land, you see, to cultivate and earn their livelihood. But the other things which are far more important, you see, namely that they should...
That's what he's saying about Gandhiji. If you were to ask questions to Gandhiji, he will have his own reasons, rationales. For now, you would want, you may think that, looks like Gandhiji is the devil, and fair enough. But basis the video, it makes a lot of sense to invoke Gandhiji and Ambedkarji's answers. If you want to score good score, present that as a debate. But there's one very interesting thing that you also can learn from this video. Just because 2 people, they disagree with each other, it does not make one good and another person bad. Disagreements are also important. They show us that they are humans. And like humans, they had different perspectives on the world. And they may have their own rationales, own reasons. Gandhiji took a different approach. Now just think about this. Ask yourself, would they have been beaten if they were the SP of that district, of the same caste? Or if they were the district collector? No one would have dared to touch them. Not possible. Because when you occupy such positions, you also acquire power, dignity, and most importantly, economic freedom. And these roles of district collectors, SP, not determined by birth, at least in our country, but by education, opportunity, merit, crack an examination, work hard for it. Ambedkarji argued that unless people had the economic freedom to break away from caste-based occupations, they would never truly be free.
A tribal man in Kalahandi in Odisha carried his wife's body over his shoulders for over 10 kilometers as he had no money for a hearse van, and the district hospital authorities allegedly refused to arrange one. Dana Manji's wife, who was suffering from tuberculosis, died early Wednesday morning. Left with little money, Manji requested hospital authorities to arrange a vehicle for transporting the body, but was denied the vehicle.
In Hathras, a small West UP village, caste discrimination is an everyday reality. We are standing at that very cremation ground where the 19-year-old Dalit girl was burnt in the dead of the night by the UP police without her family's approval.
Dr. Ambedkar, do you think democracy is going to work in India? No, except in a formal sense, if you want. What do you mean? A paraphernalia of democracy, quinquennial elections, prime ministers and so on and so on. Well, but elections are very important. No. Elections are important provided they produce really good men. Nobody has. People have no consciousness. And our electoral system, you see, is of a sort which never allows a man to choose the candidate. Now, for instance, the Congress went and said, vote for what? Vote for Bullock. Yes. Isn't it? Yes. No. The man never cared who represented the Bullock. Though it was a donkey who represented the Bullock.
In 1950, India became a democracy, right? Every citizen of India had the right to vote, participate in governance, theoretically. But Ambedkarji wanted more than that. Ambedkarji warned that these political rights mean nothing. These political rights mean nothing if India's deep social inequalities are not addressed. He believed that political democracy, right to vote, right to be represented, all of that is meaningless if people were still oppressed based on their caste. In his 1936 work, Annihilation of Caste, Ambedkar argued that caste was not merely a division of labor, but a division of laborers, which perpetuated social inequality. Ambedkar's famous slogan, educate, agitate, organize, reflected his strategy for empowering oppressed groups. Alright, what did we just see? We just watched 3 disturbing realities in modern India. How can young kids be physically assaulted? How can you assault someone just because that person belonged to a specific caste? What does it show? Don't you think this reminds us of something very interesting? This reminds us that social hierarchies begin early in life in our country. The caste system is reinforced in the classroom itself. What kind of a democracy is it when a kid's right to education, not just that, even respect, is taken away because of the caste at such a young age? What did we see in the second video? A Dalit groom requires state police to simply perform a common ritual. What is that ritual? Is that some rocket science? That ritual is to peacefully sit on a horse during his own wedding. It's a special day for him. What kind of a democracy are we? Why is his life at threat for this simple ask? Dalit groom riding a horse during his wedding procession. In which sane democracy would this lead to violence or threats? Don't you think it is heartbreaking that in a democracy built on principles of equality, justice, and whatnot, in that democracy, individuals today, they still require state protection to perform such basic customs. Why? Because it is a threat of violence. The third video of the Unna flogging, that perhaps is the most disturbing of all. What was that all about? Let me briefly show you a video. Anyone who is under 18, okay, don't watch it.
गुजरात में दलितों पर मोदी मॉडल के समय से ही भयंकर अत्याचार हो रहा था। इस अत्याचार की हकीकत तब सामने आई जब किसी ने एक वीडियो सोशल मीडिया पर वायरल कर दिया। इस वीडियो में कुछ हट्टे-कट्टे लोग 4 दलितों को बुरी तरह से पीट रहे थे। इस मामले को 1 साल हो गया है, लेकिन लोगों के जहन में ये यादें आज भी ताजा है।
Shocking case of caste-based violence shocked Unna, Gujarat in 2016. Why were they flogged? They were brutally beaten by a mob of cow vigilantes for allegedly skinning a dead cow. They were publicly flogged, they were publicly humiliated, and of course the videos of the incident went viral. There are millions of other such incidents that don't go viral. This witnessed a nationwide outrage, but there are millions of other incidents that may not witness the nationwide outrage. But the question is, what are we witnessing? According to Kangana Ranaut, we attained our independence in 2014. And what is our independence? In reality, what are we seeing? We are seeing how political democracy, we have a political democracy with all the rights to life, all the right to vote. It means nothing if social structures like caste, it still dominates people's lives. The video that we just saw, Dalit kid getting beaten up by his teachers, grooms not allowed to celebrate their special day, workers being humiliated and flogged. Whatever we are seeing today, across time, across space, whatever we are seeing today in India is something that Dr. PSIR Ambedkar ji foresaw long before India became a democracy. Ambedkar ji realized that political democracy alone, what is that political democracy? When you give people the right to vote. Ambedkar ji realized that just giving people right to vote, it would never be enough to bring real freedom until and unless it was accompanied by social democracy. Ambedkar ji believed that the ideas of liberty, equality, fraternity, all these ideas should be extended beyond the political sphere. All these ideas and ideals should be incorporated in our social life. What does that mean? India's constitution, it grants fundamental rights, right? We've all seen those things. In GS, right to freedom of speech, movement, occupation. Despite these constitutional guarantees, why are Dalits denied their rights in many parts of India? Not just Dalits, many marginalized communities. Political equality is there. Everyone is equal before the law in India. But then, why students from Dalit communities, they often face this harassment or exclusion? Do you all know the story of Rohith Vemula? Anyone knows about that? This was a nationwide story just a few years ago. Forgot that. We'll also forget the Kolkata rape thing in just a few years. We have short-term memory. Let's watch his last video. Let's see what he has to say.
My name is Rohith Vemula. I'm a Dalit coming from Guntur district. I have been a student of University of Hyderabad from 2010. And now I'm doing PhD in Social Sciences Department School. And then recently the university has taken a decision to suspend 5 Dalit students. And they have expelled us from the hostel premises. And they have said that the notice which we got served says that our presence in public places and our presence in hostel premises and administration building can be treated as criminal acts. Coming to my social background, I'm a son of agricultural laborer, and I'm my mother and father. My mother has raised us, and I came to university in 2010 as a student of MSc Biotechnology, and I have changed my subject to sociology because I wanted to be because of my passion towards the social service and social aspects. And I have got a JRF, and with my JRF I got a seat in general category in social sciences school, and my spat with ABP is not a new one. In 2012, ABP has filed a case against me in Chandranagara police station, where I was detained in the police station for 2 days.
Yeah, and then few days later, commit suicide. So even though the constitution guarantees equal opportunity, but looks like the marginalized, they continue to face social discrimination. Many students from these communities, they face exclusion, they face harassment, even in elite institutions. So what is that fraternity? What happens to it? Constitution talks about, fraternity. Constitution promotes unity, brotherhood amongst all citizens of India. But what about social fraternity? The persistence of untouchability in many parts of rural India, what does it indicate? Why are Dalits not allowed to participate in community events? Don't you think that would violate the idea of fraternity that Ambedkar ji envisioned? In 1950, India became a democracy, right? Every citizen of India had the right to vote, participate in governance, theoretically. But Ambedkar ji wanted more than that. Ambedkar ji warned that these political rights mean nothing. These political rights mean nothing if India's deep social inequalities are not addressed. He believed that political democracy, right to vote, right to be represented, all of that is meaningless if people were still oppressed based on their caste.
Democracy will not work for the simple reason we have got a social structure which is totally incompatible with parliamentary democracy. What do you mean that it's based on inequality, or it is based on inequality? And therefore, unless you can get rid of the caste system, you don't think the social structure got to be altered. I am quite prepared to say, well, it will take some time for the social structure to be altered if you want to do it in a peaceful way.
Isn't that happening today? I know the entire debate around caste is now around reservations. Politics have ruined many things. Politicians have ruined the social justice also. Today, Ambedkar ji would be ashamed of many of these leaders who are now becoming voices. Videos we just watched, these are examples of exactly what Ambedkar ji feared. These individuals, despite being citizens of our country, they still live in constant fear. They live in the fear of constant humiliation. So it looks like their political rights mean absolutely nothing. Why? Because there is social oppression. Ambedkar ji did not just speak about social democracy. He also knew that without economic democracy, the marginalized, they would remain vulnerable. Very interesting point. Just to go back to that video of Ravish Kumar. Men in the Unnao flogging video, why were they beaten? The men in that video were shamelessly, brutally beaten for doing their job that their caste assigned them to do. They were not just the victims of caste violence, but they were also denied the economic freedom. Why do I say that? Because they were trapped in an occupation that society had imposed upon them. They had no escape. They had no way to pursue a dignified livelihood. Because economic system continues to exclude the marginalized from equal opportunities. Those men were beaten publicly, brutally, and mercilessly. They were tied to a vehicle, flogged with sticks, and what was their crime? They were working in a job assigned to them by the caste system. Now just think about this. Ask yourself, would they have been beaten if they were the SP of that district, of the same caste? Or if they were the district collector? No one would have dared touch them. Not possible. Because when you occupy such positions, you also acquire power, dignity, and most importantly, economic freedom. And these roles of district collectors, SP, not determined by birth, at least in our country, but by education, opportunity, merit. Crack an examination, work hard for it. Ambedkarji argued that unless people had the economic freedom to break away from caste-based occupations, they would never truly be free. I have to keep on connecting it with the real world, otherwise you will not grasp the meaning of his words. So Ambedkarji's philosophy is not just history, it is painfully relevant even today. Those videos were recent videos. It didn't happen 70 years ago. Even if India progresses politically, socially, economically, looks like caste-based discrimination is still there. So Ambedkarji warned that if we did not achieve social democracy along with political democracy, India would remain a land of paradoxes. That's the term he used. Land of paradoxes. Now ask yourself this question. Can we call India a true democracy if Dalits, they still live in fear, if they're oppressed because of their caste? Ask yourself, how do political and social rights, how do they interact with each other in our society today? Ambedkarji believed that political democracy, a right to vote, to be represented, to participate in governance, it cannot survive unless it is built on social democracy. This means what? Social democracy. It means creating a society where liberty, equality, fraternity, they are not just slogans, but a reality for every citizen, regardless of their caste or economic background. As we saw in that video, or as we read even today's newspaper, India still struggles to achieve the social and economic democracy that Ambedkarji dreamt of. So who was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar? Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar. 14th April 1891, he was born in a Dalit family, Mahad, Mau, Madhya Pradesh. Ambedkarji, of course, faced discrimination from a very young age, and we all know the reason why. Dalit status. First-hand, he experienced the caste-based inequalities, and all of those experiences will shape his life, and looks like will shape the life of many countrymen. Despite the societal barriers, Ambedkarji pursued education with great determination. Just look at his pedigree. Went to Columbia, went to London School of Economics. All of that made him one of the most educated Indians of his time. Ambedkarji was a strong critic of Hindu orthodoxy, particularly its caste system, something that he saw as antithetical to democratic values. I know today many WhatsApp University graduates will go on to lay unthinkable aspersions on Gandhiji or Ambedkarji, but that's the reason why they are not even administrators of their WhatsApp groups, raising doubts on these legends who reshaped India. They're all humans. They all will have problems. Ambedkarji very famously called for annihilation of caste. He argued that social democracy, again and again I'm repeating this, it was essential for political democracy to succeed. He argued that political democracy, the voting rights, the rule of law, it would be hollow without social and economic equality. His warnings remain relevant even today. In 1956, Ambedkarji publicly converted to Buddhism, along with his hundreds of thousands of his followers. It was a protest against the oppressive caste system. And his conversion was a symbolic rejection of the religious structures that perpetuated untouchability and caste hierarchies. So please write down one question that you could be asked in your optional subject.